Mr. Speaker, let me say to the gentleman who just spoke, I know exactly why you're here. And I don't think this is none of us, the American people know this is not a serious effort. I know my friends don't want to talk about Trump. They want to talk about Biden, so let's talk about Joe Biden. And I want to make something clear. Not only is any talk of impeaching President Biden completely absurd, as many House Republicans know, but President Biden has been a historic success over the first 2.5 years in office. He took office in the throes of the pandemic and in the midst of the chaos caused by his predecessor trying to illegally hold on to power. But that hasn't stopped Democrats from making huge strides to improve the lives of every American. Democrats jumped into action by enacting the American Rescue Plan in the president's first months in office. That law changed the course of the pandemic and set the course of our economic recovery to be the envy of the rest of the world. It lifted more than 5 million children out of poverty, safely reopened our schools, and put money back in the pockets of middle-class Americans. Every Republican voted against those things. President Biden signed the bipartisan infrastructure law, which makes historic investments in our roads and our bridges and transportation networks while improving public safety and creating jobs all across the country. We passed into law the biggest piece of gun safety legislation in decades, and we enacted the Inflation Reduction Act less than a year ago. President Biden is now busy implementing that law, which will cut prescription drug costs for our senior citizens, lower the cost of health care for millions of Americans, and make historic investments in clean energy and American-made solutions to our climate crisis. And it will do all of that while lowering our deficit, unlike so many of the bills this Republican majority has brought to the floor, which would do the opposite. Look, this isn't just me saying how great all of this is. During a Financial Services Committee hearing yesterday, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell was asked about inflation, and he said, and I quote, "Everybody has very high inflation, the EU, the United Kingdom, and many countries within Europe," end quote. But he made one more important point, and I quote, "Our recovery is by far the strongest of any country, period," end of quote. And just look at the results more broadly. More Americans have jobs right now than at any point in American history. Over the past 2 years, more small businesses have been created than at any other period on record. More Americans have health insurance right now than ever before in our history. I could go on and on. But let me be clear, no one's saying things are perfect. There's a lot that we need to do. We need to do more to keep our children fed. We need to do more to ensure every child gets the education they deserve. We need to do more to make sure the richest Americans pay their fair share. We need to do more to get guns off the street. I would love to see this Republican majority do anything at all to reach those goals, or do anything that means anything to anybody. Instead, we're here today debating this latest attempt by the Speaker to keep the most radical members of his party behind him. Quite frankly, it is embarrassing and it is pathetic, and I reserve my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman.